lovers here? We live in the greatest, the freest, the richest, the most humanitarian country on earth. Don't let your parents' generation screw it up. As I watch mounting spending and debt, I think, what kind of America will be left for you guys? As I watch intelligence agencies vacuum up all your records, I think, will we surrender our rights without even a whimper? When I visit college campuses, though, I'm encouraged. The students I meet are among the most passionate defenders of liberty everywhere. You get it. The government has no business peering through your records, combing through your emails, or monitoring your social media. President Obama maintains that the Fourth Amendment doesn't protect any of your records. Well, I've got news for him. We will not let him run roughshod over our liberties. Not now. To keep the federal government out of Iowa, out of your home, out of your business, and out of your church. When I first ran for office, nobody thought I could win, including my wife. Some people ask me then, well, why are you even running? But the answer is the same now as it was then. I have a vision for America. I want to be part of a return to prosperity. I want to see a true economic boom that lifts all Americans. But too often, when Republicans have won, we've squandered our victory by becoming part of the Washington machine. That's not who I am. That's not why I ran for office just a few years ago. The truth is, I loved my life as a small-town doctor. Every day I woke up, and I felt lucky to be doing the things I love. In fact, I would joke with my kids. I would say, it's Monday morning, the best day of the week. And then say, Dad, come on. But more importantly, I was able to do things. And I was able to do things that made a difference in people's lives. For me, there's nothing that compares with being able to help someone see better. Last August, I traveled to Guatemala on a medical mission trip, and together with a team of surgeons, we operated on over 200 patients that had been previously blind from cataracts. I was grateful to be able to put on my scrubs, peer into the microscope, and focus on the task at hand, to take a surgical approach to fix a problem. One day in Guatemala, a man arrived and he told me that I had operated on his wife the day before. And his wife said she could see clearly for the first time in years. She begged him to get on the bus, come through the winding roads of the mountains, and have his eyes done too. He was also nearly blind from cataracts. After his surgery, his wife sat next to him. We unveiled, took the patch off of his eyes, and I'll never forget the look on each of their faces as they saw each other clearly for the first time in years, to see the face they loved again. As I saw the joy in their eyes, I thought, this is why I became a doctor. In that moment, I also remember my grandmother who inspired me to become an eye surgeon. She spent hours with me as a child, telling me stories as we sorted through her old coin collection, looking for wheat pennies and Indian heads. As her vision began to fail, though, I became her eyes to inspect the faintness of the mint marks on the old weather-worn coins. I went with my grandmother to the ophthalmologist, as first she had her corneas replaced, and then she received the sad news that macular degeneration was taking her vision. My hope that my grandmother would see again made me want to become an eye surgeon, to make a difference in people's lives. I've been fortunate. I've been able to enjoy the American dream, but I worry that the opportunity and hope is slipping away for you guys, the Facebook generation, the Instagram generation. It seems to me, though, that both parties and the entire political system are often to blame. Your parents' generation, not your parents, but your parents' generation have selfishly spent the country's savings. There's nothing left. What's there for you? In order to restore America, one thing though is for certain. We must not dilute our message. We must not give up on our principles. We must not give up on what made America great. politicians that will say or do anything to get elected, what's the point? Why bother? If all the politicians look alike, sound alike, dress alike, and parrot platitudes, why even bother voting? If we want the Instagram generation to get up off their sofas, to leave their dorm rooms and vote, someone needs to come forward and make it worth their while. If we want college kids to get engaged, we need to go boldly forth under a banner of liberty that clutches the Constitution in one hand with our Bill of Rights in the other. Washington is horribly broken. I fear it can't be fixed from within. We, the people, must rise up and demand action. Congress will never balance the budget unless you force them to do so. Congress has an abysmal record at doing anything, at balancing anything. Our only recourse is to force Congress to balance the budget with a constitutional amendment. Washington. And let me tell you, there is no monopoly of knowledge there. I ran for office because we have too many career politicians. I believe it now more than ever. We limit the president to 2 terms. It's about time we limit the terms of Congress. Washington is a mess. We can't even pass bills we agree on. I've tried to bring a different approach to Washington. I was trained as a physician to seek answers to problems, not just beat up the opposition. I will work with anyone. I don't care whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or a Lilliputian. I'll work with anybody who honestly wants to fix things, honestly wants to make America a better place. I've worked with Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey on criminal justice reform. I have bills to make many nonviolent drug offenses misdemeanors so as not to permanently damage the kids who run away. I may not agree on a lot of things. I have a bill with Harry Reid that would allow people to get their voting rights back when they've reformed their ways. I have a bill that will guarantee that the government can't take your property, can't take your stuff without first convicting you of a crime. Senator Kirsten of New York to get justice for soldiers who've been sexually assaulted. We've also worked together to remove federal prohibitions on medical marijuana. As president, my plan will be to bring in members of the opposition party and find out what legislation we can pass together. I'm not naive. I know we have differences between the parties, but I also believe that we have common ground. I'll give you an example. When I first got to the Senate, legislators from California were pressing to quickly pass new pipeline regulations after an explosion in San Bruno killed 8 people. I held the bill, and I got terrible grief from the media. Well, let's just be honest. Sometimes the media just don't understand, all right? When the media finally gave me time to explain myself, I told them, I want to read the bill before I sign off on it. Imagine that. Imagine the temerity of wanting to read a bill before you vote on it. media continued to hound me. But the funny thing is, when we finished reading the bill, we discovered that the so-called safety bill had a glaring loophole. The so-called pipeline safety bill was written to grandfather in the old pipelines, but those were the ones that were exploding. The old pipelines were precisely the problem. The San Bruno line was over 50 years old. The old pipelines needed the inspections more than the new pipelines. They were going to pass window dressing, say they addressed the problem, but never fixed the problem. That's the story of Washington. The bill, but only after its authors agreed to include old pipelines in the new rules. Persistence sometimes actually works. The problem in Washington is that the bills are often thousands of pages long. No one reads them. They're plopped on our desk with only hours to go, in violation of our own rules. We have a rule that says you're supposed to wait 48 hours, and so I raised my hand and made a point of order and said, "You're disobeying your own rules." And they said, "Okay." And they voted to change the rules in front of me. So I propose something truly extraordinary. Let's read the bills every page. College may not care about taxes because you don't pay them, your parents do. But many of you may not also care about excessive regulations because you haven't seen the harm up close and personal yet. But taxes and regulation do affect your ability to get a job. If taxes and regulations are excessive here at home, companies move abroad, and so does the job you're looking to get when you graduate. Some economists estimate that the burden of debt costs us 1 million jobs a year. I know it's hard to fathom. What does it mean to have an $18 trillion debt? It boggles the mind to understand that we borrow $1 million every minute. Most of us can't imagine even what $1 trillion is. If you want to picture what $1 trillion is, imagine a stack of $1,000 bills in your hand, 4 inches high. That's $1 million. But if you wanted to stack $1 trillion in your hand in $1,000 bills, it would be 67 miles high. Clearly the debt is out of control. When you graduate from college, I want each and every one of you to have a job. Left behind. Too many recent college graduates can't find jobs. The reward of work seems beyond their grasp. Under the watch of both parties, the poor seem to get poorer and the rich get richer. The president says, "Oh, I just want to give you free college." Sounds good at first, but think about it. How could it be free? Won't somebody still have to pay? Won't someone have to pay the professors, the electricity, the janitorial services, the building costs? Somebody pays. I've got a better idea. Let's let college students deduct the entire cost of their education of their working careers. Let's make college tuition entirely deductible. I don't want to be a Republican. They don't care about the poor. Now, I admit Republicans haven't done a very good job explaining how we're going to help alleviate poverty. But I have a different vision, an ambitious vision, a vision that goes beyond what you've heard, a vision that will offer opportunity to all Americans, especially those who've been left behind. My plan includes economic freedom zones to allow impoverished areas like Detroit or Appalachia in my state. Allow these regions to prosper again. Allow them to bail themselves out by leaving more money in the pockets of people who live there. I am convinced that most Americans want to work. I want to free up the great engine of American prosperity. I want to see millions of Americans back at work. In my vision, America will bring back manufacturing jobs that pay well. How? We will dramatically lower the taxes on American companies that wish to bring their profits home. More than $2 trillion in American profit sits overseas. It's not coming home. In my vision for America, new highways and bridges will be built across the country, not by raising your taxes, but by lowering the repatriation tax and putting that revenue in the highway fund.
Yeah.
In my home state of Kentucky, agriculture is important, just like it is here in Iowa. In the past, politicians have given us two answers when it comes to helping farmers. One crowd wants more government programs, more regulations, more bureaucrats in Washington working at the Department of Agriculture, the EPA. The other crowd says there's nothing to do because we don't believe in government. I think there's a third way. The third approach says that we've got the best farmers in the world, supported by the best agribusinesses in the world. Let's tear down the government regulations and the foreign trade restrictions that are preventing them from succeeding. Let's keep American agriculture the best in the world.
Yeah.
To that end, I've co-authored legislation with Senator Grassley to deregulate alternative fuels. Our tax code and federal laws are riddled with rules and regulations that create an unfair playing field. I say let's get the government out of the way so that everyone has a fair chance to succeed and let the markets work again.
Yeah.
Democrats care more about the poor. But if that's true, why is black unemployment still twice white unemployment? Why has minority household income declined $3,500 over the past 6 years? The truth is, liberal policies have failed our inner cities. Our schools are not equal, and the poverty gap continues to widen. Although I was born into the America that experiences and believes in opportunity, my trips to Detroit, to Appalachia, to Chicago have revealed what I call an undercurrent of unease. Everyone, no matter their race, sex, or political beliefs, must be free from fear in their own neighborhoods. The war on drugs has created a tension in some communities that too often has ended in tragedy. The war on drugs has created a culture of violence and put police in a nearly impossible situation. 3 out of 4 people in jail for drugs are people of color. Even though when you look at surveys, whites and blacks use drugs at about the same rate, 3 out of 4 people in prison are black. Something's wrong with that. And it ought to end. And I'm going to be part of it. Part of ending any law that disproportionately incarcerates, kills, or maims our citizens. Police need to keep our communities safe from violence, and the government needs to leave non-violent offenders alone. Yeah! Selling loose cigarettes and he's not paying the king's ransom in taxes, couldn't we give him a ticket, tell him to move on instead of throwing him to the pavement? Criminal justice reform will require leadership from someone who's unafraid to challenge the status quo. I won't wait any longer. I've had enough. I will not rest until all Americans, white and black, rich and poor, are treated equally under the law. In my vision for America, freedom and prosperity at home can only be achieved if we defend against enemies who are dead set on attacking America. We need a national defense robust enough to defend against all attack, modern enough to deter all enemies, and nimble enough to defend our vital interests. But we also need a foreign policy that protects American interests and encourages stability, not chaos. Yeah. If there's one thing that's true about the Middle East, it's that every time we've intervened to topple a secular dictator, we've gotten more chaos and the rise of radical Islam. We toppled Hussein. We have more sectarian warfare, more chaos. We toppled Gaddafi. Libya is now a failed state with jihadists run amok. They swim in our embassy swimming pool. We need to think before we act. Every war is not a good war to be involved in. Not succumb to the notion that a government inept at home will somehow succeed in building nations abroad. To those who argue that we must project strength by being involved in every war around the world, we should answer that we don't project strength by borrowing money from China to send it to Pakistan. I have a message for those who are spending your inheritance abroad. Let's quit building bridges in foreign countries and use that money to build bridges here at home. It angers me to see mobs burning our flag and chanting death to America in countries that receive millions, if not billions of dollars of American aid. I say it must end. I say not one penny more to these haters of America. To defend our country, we do need intelligence. We need to gather intelligence on the enemy. But when the intelligence director is not punished for lying under oath, how are we to trust our own government agencies? Warrantless searches of Americans' phone records and computer records are un-American, a threat to our civil liberties. I say that your phone records are yours. I say the phone records of law-abiding citizens are none of their damn business. The President created this vast dragnet of gathering all your data, gathering all your personal information by executive order. As President, on day one, I will immediately end all unconstitutional surveillance. But we must not must never give up on who we are as a people in the process. We must never diminish the Bill of Rights as we fight this long war against evil. We must believe in our founding documents. We must protect economic and personal liberty again. America has much greatness left in her. I see an America strong enough to deter foreign aggression, yet wise enough to avoid unnecessary intervention. I see an America that has a restrained IRS, that cannot target or harass American citizens for their political or their religious beliefs. You guys are the next generation, the future that will give us the next innovators, the next Bill Gates, the next Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs understood that genius needs freedom. He wrote, "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in square holes." Are you out there? They're not fond of rules. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as crazy ones, we see genius. Because the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Pink Floyd also understood that genius needs to be left alone. Whether your ideas are politically correct or not, whether you're a painter or a self-proclaimed prophet, the exhortation is to shine, to not let conformity dim your light, to shine on, you crazy diamond. For the crazy diamonds to shine, government must get out of the way. The leave me alone generation is a generation that believes they can conquer the world, solve any problem, if left free to follow their dreams. It isn't about how government will lead us to prosperity. The debate is about getting government out of the way of human ingenuity. This is the message I'm carrying from coast to coast, a message of liberty, a message of hope. Join me as together we seek a new vision for America. Join me today as I announce, with God's help, with the help of liberty lovers everywhere, that I am putting myself forward as a candidate to be President of the United States.